What's going on? It's 2:29 p.m. 5/13/2025. We've got the KKK on Paraconomy Inc. Check it out. We have the KKK all over. So Judge Guthrie of the 53rd District Court is also part of the KKK, along with Cliff Morley, or whatever his last name is, my landlord, and basically Morley and Fox Landings LLC have ties to the KKK, and that's how my parents and my mom's side of the family, the Ellises, have been able to talk to Kat and keep Cliff informed using the KKK and the tattoo shops. So Sadie, my upstairs neighbor, is friends with Unique, the next door neighbor, and they both have ties to the KKK because Sadie is like into white dudes, and then Unique is from like the South. So like Unique has this down south all the time, and so she's a little too comfortable, as you could tell. And that's possibly where we're at. Is Oracle Apothecary, unfortunately, a Michigan company, has to work in Michigan, where the KKK takes up Populous with the Proud Boys. Now, those Proud Boys owe me some tiki torch parties and Hawaiian shirts because they're screwing all this up. Because every day I sit here and I let the world know who's a part of the KKK, people start to get interested in what's possible in this pseudoscience that I've been able to whip up, and nobody seems to have quite exact answers on this incrementally over here on my likeness. So, welcome to hell. This is a big, huge part of my family's big secret. Is there and the rest of Michigan is they're all a part of the militia, from like the way back when here, and like that's a big part where obviously they don't want to be associated with this, but if there's magic attached to the KKK, a paranormal phenomenon that they've been protecting, and is why they send boys to the military to get this part of diplomacy. And they know that like if they send more, they'll get it's incentivized because of a majority. So like every time they have people in on this side for the white people go into the military, they often check them in with this part of the legacy, which is just basically written in the Constitution, because it was basically facilitated for white people to gain access, knowing that they had just escaped from something really vicious out in Europe. But there's cause and effect here, and that's why slavery is like a huge issue once this country has been like pieced together and puzzled together, and it gets people towards whatever it is that got this apartment complex, the at Green Oaks, built in the 70s. This place was built in the 70s, back when cocaine was like sort of getting put on the legality issue again. Because like that was like it was like during, I'm assuming, like parts of freaking what's going on? I don't know, Iran Contra in the 70s, Bay of Pigs, stuff like yeah, well, yeah, okay, they go back and stuff back and forth. I don't know. But at any rate, you have this like this part where white people are supposed to like treat people well. And they go to spread diplomacy, and they start to find out there's limitations. And so the KKK starts to work outside of the military, but keep its military militant. So it's a militia. But okay, so like that's a big part of it. My landlord's trying to evict me, knowing that there's the KKK on the other end trying to fleece my bank account and make me and gentrify me. They're knowingly being able to control the fact that I'm being looked at as an option. And that's like the last thing they actually want to do with the Hawaiian, because they're attached to the Proud Boys, and they have this weird secret that they seem to know more about Hawaii than me. I wonder how if having access to a wallet for vacations in Hawaii would feel. And it would probably make you think you know the most about it, since you go regularly, right? And this is where the landlords all sit and they dwindle their thumbs away, knowing they have ties directly to the militias here that were a part of the human trafficking back in the lockdown protesting, when we had a bunch of Proud Boys on the courthouse lawn, over here protesting the lockdown. It's what ended up, back to the video that I launched this morning, ended up being this. But again, they have people working, Candela, Sweet, Cliff, Cat, everybody who's white here does, and hey, lucky guess, surprise, surprise, they, a lot of them have this tie, whether directly or offshore. Some, most, I'm willing to say most of them are offshore, but some are direct. I'd believe I'd buy any of that, and more than you would want. So like that's kind of where I would look at, and they're not, again. I just went on a big whole thing on my own about how like they've been putting black people in the KKK for a while. So now they put all these trans girls and they gave them privilege and they said, "Look, you guys can be the KKK for the gays." So now Kat and Sam's talked about their relationship with like Proud Boys and neo-Nazis. So Kendra and Sam are dating, and I'm assuming that like Kendra also has ties because they're all from up north. Michigan's a huge cabal of like privilege the further north you get. So of course what did I do? I introduced a bunch of families that knew about each other, but finally I was the catalyst that allowed these families to get together, and they're now bonding over my like apparent strife and struggle, and they couldn't be more appalled and excited because they feel like they did their homage to the pressure of the KKK would put on a Puerto Rican or a Mexican, because they obviously got it wrong. Okay, whoever the cop was wrote me down as a Mexican because Michigan wants to have a huge opinion about it. But also there's sexism that like went into it, that's like, oh, it's a male Mexican against a blonde female. We're going to make sure that blonde female, just out of in cognition and technicality, gets the gist of it. So she gets the justice and I get the boot without the other local extremities knowing that my family has ties to both Hawaii and the and the KKK. And that's something that would have been important if people actually showed up for my birthday on Christmas. So this is a huge part of why I'm getting evicted right now by whoop whoop. The KKK is a huge freaking eye staple in my freaking legacy line. They're in my dreams. They're procuring a lot of weird magic. So, since October 2022, and a bunch of scapegoating and framing happened, human trafficking, a bunch of weird things that the KKK has military been able to delete and synops here through, and there's again, I believe Maka's now a part of it. Michaela Gonzalez is now also a part of that with, but she's more, I feel like she falls more on this side where it's militant. So it doesn't direct, she doesn't seek it out per se, but like it is something she knows is just out here in Michigan, and she's got to learn. She likes boys. She's got to learn to get along. She likes girls too. So like that's kind of, well, no, I don't know. But like, yeah, from what I understand, she's around because is the it thing. So like a lot of people like her, and so like that somehow grabbed my cousin Dave, who's David Rossi, who's also, I'm assuming, a pretty heavily now involved with the KKK, especially how he was throwing around the N word 10 years ago when I came back home from Chicago, and he was a white privileged, like kind of lazy dude. Who was trying to own up in a bit in businesses and stuff. So if he ends up out at Omar's, he's meeting with the KKK out here and the gays on how people were doing that. And then my cousin Rosalie and Jeremy, their spouses know about it, and they recently got a divorce. So Sky knows Scott has ties to it because Laverne has ties to it. So directly, Gerber Collision over here down the road knows the Schloud family like this night and day. So basically, they're all holding me captive with all this money and pressure and all this expectation that I'm gonna do more things wrong, even though nobody's actually gotten the time to get the footing to know the adult version of me, and they're all going off of these backwater trash like rumors, and that's a lot of expectation. So that's where Hawaii comes in, and they've been putting kibosh to things behind the scenes with some of the militant. So like that's kind of how the magic got leaked out. It literally came from my own blood and flesh, and that's kind of where my sister comes in. My sister is like Sadie upstairs. She only dates white boys and like is a huge advocate for just like keeping the left clean. So, but but it is kind of it does have that feeling. She's like my mom. So she's a lot more Republican, right wing, but central bureaucracy. She's a goody goody two shoes, and the moment something gets flunked in bureaucracy, she looks at getting a pass. So that's kind of been her prerogative since 14. And now she's in her late 30s. So like I can only assume that that privilege has only gotten flourished and flossier and now fluffy. And so she's like this big old deal, even though it's all just huff and fluff of like reclaiming this passion for justice on the left. Which a lot of that's a huge leftist liberal echo chamber that it gets people from the left to the right on conversations. So again, landlords, the KKK, dude, boring. But yeah, they're out here, and they've all been talking to each other. Candela Street, Sharon Kelly Suite, gosh darn the freaking all over the place, and freaking John Cassie's whole side. Dakota Edwards, friggin' all these people got canned and trashed over here to like keep an eye on me and then make me go crazy till they gentrify the unwanted behavior away from Lansing. So like right, that's a nice way to put it, right? And that's kind of where maybe the people who have been, and that they're not directly, but they are, and they know what's going on, and they have a good idea on what the bag is. So people are going to have to come to terms with the fact that a lot of people know that they are directly involved with Michigan's militias and human trafficking and roof villains and crime, a lot of crime. Even it sounds like rape. Even I if I got human trafficked and I got roofied, there's a good chance that I'm also possibly got used here. And like if hopefully I didn't. I'm not gonna go out and say there's a chance. I mean there is a chance, but like hopefully I didn't. And like we can kind of breeze past some of the things I've done because I went out of my way to have start relationships with black people knowing my family won't do it because they're the KKK. So that's kind of how I ended up here on the internet with all this responsibility on civilian disclosure and how I have to push back all the people who look like they're in charge, who are just simply doing their jobs, are doing more than what their jobs entail them. And when I ask them to do what their jobs are, they close me down. If I asked Flip to do a public audit on like taxes, exemptions, and stuff like that, I'd imagine they were supposed to declare bankruptcy and never did. And they keep riding the bar, or they did, and maybe it got closed out professionally. So like that's how the DJ Trump thing is. And they're huge Trumpers. Joel Morley is a huge Trumper and a right winger. So it wouldn't surprise me that Joel has ties because his dad, whoever if he's still around, I don't believe he is, but I know the new guy, he looks like he could be. And he's old enough. And that's kind of why you have to consider the fact that these guys aren't all bad, but also they don't like the way things are looking here, considering they kind of concocted it themselves. So like it gets weird because they know who's on and who's off the culture, and I'm off the culture, but I'm of the some of it. So like it's kind of how people lay way to the way they're going to decide to handle you here in America and especially in Michigan. And it's why people think I need to go learn more lessons instead of doing what it is I was attempting to do, which was mind my own damn business. For the past at least 5 years, I've been stuck here and just try to make friends. I made a network, and it turns out they're all strippers and really sleazy adults, unfortunately. I thought they'd be cooler than that. But they don't see the same potential and talent that I saw, and they're luck. People still got what they got, and that's because they stayed where they stayed. And so, if you didn't go to cool liberal arts college with art school kids all in Chicago, that's because you stayed and you chose to do that. So there is that part. That's what people put on me all the time. You left, yeah. Well, you stayed. So that's kind of where I'm. This is what it is, huh? Have fun with that then. Like I'll be around, but you guys do that. I'm gonna live my life out around some of the things. Thank you. So yeah, no, yeah, yeah, a bunch of people in the KKK.